Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. You guys have been absolutely killing it lately on all of these analysis videos. My most recent one being on Daryl Dixon is now the most viewed video on my channel with a whopping 1.6k views at the time of me recording this. So I'm coming back at you with another one, this time on the DCEU. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So needless to say, the DCEU has had its fair share of scrutiny brought on by critics and fans alike. In terms of comic adaptations, the DCEU leaves a lot to be desired. There are parts of the DCEU that make it seem like we aren't even watching comic adaptations, but more so that these are different characters entirely, the only thing connecting them being the iconic suits and symbols they wear. And honestly, when it comes to Rotten Tomatoes scores, looking at the MCU compared to the DCEU, yeah, this holds up. Now personally, I've always been more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan. I grew up reading Justice League comics, watching Adam West's Batman on TV with my grandfather, and was a kid when the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy was coming out. So I must say, as a fan, I'm really disappointed with where the DCEU has gone. Was it ever salvageable, and where did they go wrong? Well, I don't think we can truly understand where they went wrong without actually using the MCU as an example of a cinematic universe going right. And we're also going to look at how the DCEU adapted or failed to adapt a lot of fan-favorite comics and characters into film. Then, we're going to talk about 2023's The Flash movie and how it really solidified the downfall of the DCEU. So, the scene is summer 2008. A new movie is headed to theaters that will truly change the fabric of superhero movies for years to come. Iron Man, starring Robert Downey Jr., is set to serve as the first installment in the new Marvel Cinematic Universe. Later that summer, though not typically accredited as part of the MCU, I did look it up just to confirm it is actually the second installment in the MCU, The Incredible Hulk would come out. Then, in 2010, we got a sequel to Iron Man with Iron Man 2, and the following year, Captain America, The First Avenger, and Thor would come out. At the end of Captain America, we got the most chilling and amazing announcement ever. The Avengers, coming summer of 2012. This was game-changing. The hype was unreal, and superhero movies were now making more money than they ever had been before. The Avengers would go on to become one of the highest-grossing movies of all time, and the highest-grossing superhero movie of all time, only to be replaced years later by a different Avengers movie, being Avengers Endgame. All seemed to be truly coming into place for Marvel, and for superhero movies in general. Contrary to how Marvel set up their X-Men universe, where they did a group movie and then tried to split off and do X-Men Origins Wolverine and X-Men Origins Magneto, which we never got. They made the solo movies first and then brought them together as one group, something that had never been done before. The DCEU would not get its start until 2013, after the Avengers movie had already come out. In the beginning, there was a lot of hype around this. The first installment in the series was Man of Steel, with Henry Cavill as Superman, and it was, all in all, a very good movie. Henry Cavill in the role of Superman worked, and I was excited to see what they were going to do and where they were going to take this character, as well as any others they may try to incorporate into this new universe. Where it all went wrong was in the second installment of the series, Batman v Superman. Now, a lot of blockbuster movie fans really liked this movie, and I don't think it was a bad movie as far as movies go. I just don't feel like it's a good superhero movie as far as superhero movies go. Not much heroism is actually going on in this movie, just this conflict between Superman and Batman that at times really does feel forced. I also think this is where we start to see the lack of understanding that Zack Snyder, the director of the DCEU, really had for these characters. For example, why is Batman killing people? Now, I will say Zack Snyder is really good at making cinematically epic movies, but he himself, as the director of the DCEU, even admitted that DC comics were not the comics he liked to read. He was into, quote, weirder kinds of comics, and was never really a fan of the superhero genre. And even so, when he started reading them to prepare for his role as the director of the DCEU, he stuck with a lot of the more violent iterations of these superheroes from some of the more darker runs from the comics. Now, that's not to say that Zack Snyder is a bad director or bad writer either. A lot of his other movies are very good. He just did not have the time and the connection to these characters that someone heading a cinematic universe for them would need. Truth be told, Batman v Superman was really more like a group of comics pushed into one, incorporating the Dark Knight Returns comic run by Frank Miller and also trying to bring in aspects of the Death of Superman comic book. It just felt like there was so much story trying to be told here that it didn't really even allow us as the audience to feel connected to these characters, which didn't allow us to feel for any of what they were going through. I mean, on Batman's end, Robin is dead, and he's grown weary of fighting and wants to save as many people as he can, probably because of some level of guilt that he feels because of how Robin died, and he himself probably feels responsible, but we don't really get to know that because we need more story either in the movie or as a whole nother movie. Now, this brings us to The Flash. This is a movie that did not even break even at the box office. The estimated budget for this movie was $200 million, and at the box office between the United States and Canada, it only made $108 million. Globally, it just barely broke even by making $271 million. Part of the reason this movie hadn't performed well has to do with the DCEU's character of the Flash. Barry Allen is supposed to be smart, confident, witty, and funny. These are the best aspects of his character. These are the aspects that were incorporated into his character in the Flash CW television series, and it worked, as that's one of the most loved shows on the CW, and he is one of the most loved characters from all their superhero series. The DCEU, however, put a different spin on his character, and one that a lot of die-hard Flash fans, such as myself, were kinda disappointed with. They made him somewhat quirky, socially awkward, a shut-in, and someone who is more nerdy than smart, with no confidence, effectively making, at least from my standpoint, a mockery of the original character. Another reason the movie didn't perform well is because there was seemingly no marketing for the movie. The lead for the movie, Ezra Miller, was off assaulting people and getting in trouble legally. In fact, there are only actually 2 recorded interviews of him marketing for the movie, and he looks insanely out of it in both. Plus, before the movie had even started, James Gunn already announced he would be scrapping the current DCEU and completely rebooting it with new actors and new storylines, something that excited a lot of DC fans, but also killed the Flash movie because a lot of people simply didn't see the point in going out to see a movie which was part of a dead universe. James Gunn announced that this new DCEU was going to incorporate some of the DC's legacy movies in a multiverse called DC Elseworlds, such as Robert Pattinson's The Batman and other assorted DC series that are set to come out. He also stated that The Batman will still be having a sequel at the same consecutive time that the DCEU is forming. So, it will be interesting to see 2 different iterations of Batman on the silver screen at the same time. Now, the Flash movie had so much potential, but nobody really wanted it. I think especially after the DCEU ruined the character. It bounced back and forth between so many directors and was an idea in the back of many writers' minds for a whopping 9 years. It was a movie that nobody wanted to make, and when they finally decided to make it, they rushed the writing and especially rushed the CGI. They did later come out and try to give a canon reason for why their CGI had to be bad, but they were not fooling anyone. It was simply the fact that they rushed the movie. There's truly no reason why a movie with a budget of $200 million should look like the graphics of a video game from the 90s. What I wish they had done for this movie instead of completely scrapping it is make it lead into the new DCEU. Because the timeline gets so messed up, we have to kill off Ezra Miller's Flash, and we are forced to recast so many fan-favorite characters. That's what they should have done, and I think many can agree that it would have made the movie altogether more enjoyable. If anything, it would have made it so they took their time on it because it would carefully set the stage for their new cinematic universe, but I see why they didn't do that. I really wish that they had ended it differently at the very least, but having arguably the worst Batman, George Clooney, reprise his role at the end really did solidify to the fans that this whole movie was a joke to most everyone who worked on it, and it made it really sad to see how far the DCEU had fallen, from strong beginnings with Man of Steel to the rubbles of the Flash movie. I'm also a little sad at the fact that Henry Cavill won't be playing Superman anymore. I feel he really was good for the role and it did fit him. I also, for what they were, really did like the Shazam movies, so it sucks we won't be getting any more of those either. What do you guys think? Are you excited for the new DCEU? Do you feel the same about how god-awful the Flash movie was? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Peace.